Greetings, Jeremy Sutton here from PrecisionPrinciple.com on day 27 of the intensive Ashtanga yoga training. It's a beautiful day here in Ganj, and the question on everybody's mind around here seems to be, why? What do I mean? Well, let's start on the very small scale. In our yoga classes here, the question has been asked among the students, among the rest of us taking this course, why do we give pushing to the students, right? Now, of course, as yoga instructors, we have to do adjustments, straighten the shoulders, roll the shoulders down the back, straighten the spine, tuck the tailbone, all this kind of stuff, make sure the chin's parallel. And no one debates that, you got to get into good position. But then, after we adjust someone to the correct position, then there are various possibilities to go over to someone and actually, perhaps put your hand on their waist and their knee and sort of help them open farther than they can push themselves on their own. Our body can stretch farther than we can make ourselves go, and this can, increase our flexibility, do a number of different things. So for all of the postures, we have to know how to do the pushing, not just the adjustments. And so the question is, why are we doing that, right? That's a good question, right? Whenever you ask the question why, you have to go back to what is the purpose of this right here. So the question is, why am I at yoga, right? Now, the person who's asking, why am I doing these corrections, clearly has a purpose of yoga other than simply getting flexible and strong. And this is a great orientation towards yoga, because following the philosophy, the Samkhya philosophy we talked about 20 some days ago, the purpose of yoga in the traditional sense is to reach enlightenment, right? It's not to get flexible, be able to put my foot behind my head and that kind of stuff. The purpose is to this higher states of being, this sense of awareness and presence that I'm more engaged with every single moment. That is the purpose of yoga on the more broad sense. So why are we pushing? How does this help, right? Now, again, if you ask the question why, you got to go to why you're doing it. So if someone's going to yoga and they're not really there to be flexible, but rather to get to a clear state of mind, relaxed and sort of in the zone, then pushing may not always be appropriate. In fact, they probably want limited adjustments, because every time you kind of touch someone on the shoulder or kind of move their hips, that kind of can knock you out of the zone if you are not steady in your practice, right? So this is a good question, and why does seem to be the question on everybody's mind here in Ganj, India. Let me explain a little bit more deeply. Now, I've mentioned previously that here we are, and just about a 10-minute walk away from here is the Dalai Lama's temple. For the last 3.5 weeks, the Dalai Lama has been in town. He's been giving talks just with regularity. Everyone is always so excited to see him talk. In all of the restaurants around town, restaurants, stores, there's Tibetan Buddhist bookstores, there's probably, for such a small town, there are a high number of restaurants, bookstores, and Tibetan art shops, which makes sense because it's a little bit of a tourist, it's a little bit of a tourist town, but at the same time, it's just a beautiful place, so people like to come here, and there are many Tibetan refugees who live here. The point is this: the Dalai Lama's influence is strong. Tibetan Buddhism's influence is strong, and everybody in town, every time I go to a new cafe, I seem to be hearing conversations from all around me about, what is the purpose of this all? How do I attain clarity? Everyone's asking the big questions. Why am I here? What is my purpose? Is there meaning of life? Do I have a meaning for my own life? These are the questions kind of circulating through everybody's mind. And I can't deny that these questions have been on my own mind as well. Although, to be honest, these are definitely not questions. This is not the first time I've been engaged with these questions. However, this place is very powerful in having the sort of the cues, the triggers that sponsor this type of thinking. I mean, myself, while I'm here, I picked up this book, Viktor Frankel's Man's Search for Meaning, and the essence of this book is, he was a psychologist who was Jewish during World War II in Germany and was taken into Auschwitz and 4 different concentration camps in this extremely terrible position where he could have, he had endless chances to be murdered terribly. The conditions were just atrocious. And throughout this all, he has come to ask this question. What is there? Are humans always free? What is the last of human freedoms? These kind of questions, and ultimately, what is the role of meaning in our life? Now, he happens to be one of the founders, Viktor Frankl. Dr. Viktor Frankl is one of the founders of what he calls logotherapy, and logo is come from the Greek root meaning, so meaning-based therapy. Now, Dr. Frankel he proposes in this book that in the modern era, where the church and religiosity has sort of subsided away, that in this context, people are now turning to psychotherapists, to psychologists and psychiatrists for problems that previously they just would have gone to go see their pastor, their priest, or maybe their philosopher. Who knows? I mean, I think philosophy, religion, spirituality, when you're talking about ideas and worldviews, I think that these are not, they're not, certainly they're very different from each other, but at the same time they sort of fill in this central question, which is, what's the meaning of my life? Is there a meaning of my life? Can I have a meaning? Is there some ultimate meaning that kind of goes even underneath all of the, all of this, external reality that I see? Is there some sort of universal meaning of life? Which we, now in the modern world, we look around and we look into the infinity of space and we see, well, it's pretty difficult for us to say with any certainty at all that there could be some, determined, quote unquote, meaning of life. But at the same time, Dr. Viktor Frankl has a great point that when he was in the concentration camps, he would look around and he would notice this, that people who still had meaning in their life, meaning they had these reasons basically why it was important for them to get through it. Those are the people who had the best chance of actually making it through. Now, of course, there was just random selection. Someone could just, it's atrocious. Someone could just come by and say, you don't look good today. Boom, you're out. But there were a lot of things that people could do. For example, how are you going to be selected? Well, people who lost hope, who lost all meaning, they would just basically just give up, and at that point, there was no chance they had of making it through, he would say. And he said you'd see it again and again, how someone would basically just lose hope, and then they wouldn't even get out of bed, and they'd be sick, they wouldn't go to the sick ward, they'd just sit there until they got beaten to death, or just thrown off, and they just, I'm done, this isn't, I don't have a reason to do this anymore. So he's saying, without meaning, we sort of lose our North Star, our guiding principles. So this question, why? Why are we here? Why are we here is pretty abstract, but why are you here? Why am I here? That question right there, why am I here? And you can't look to me for an answer, you can't look to anybody else for that answer. That question about why am I here is not anybody else's question to answer. That is a question that you get to design your own answer to, and that you have to design your own answer to. If you don't, then basically you're putting maybe the most essential, maybe the core aspect, the core principle, the core idea that's going to drive your life, the thing that's going to direct you past the horizon. I don't know what's over that horizon, but I'm going to move towards something. If you don't have that reason, that purpose, what is my purpose? Then basically you're open to become a victim of either someone else's purpose. Yeah, oh, you don't have a purpose? Well, let me tell you what your purpose is. Your purpose is to follow my specific doctrine, right? Your purpose is to follow the way I see the world. So obviously, if we follow that sort of logic, then we just open ourselves up to become victims to whoever else is, I trust you, so I'll follow you. And okay, look, there is probably some legitimacy to that. If not everybody wants to think profoundly about the essential nature of their own being, and some people, they think, some people enjoy just following, right? Some people they don't necessarily want to have to make every single decision. Some people enjoy being soldiers, so to speak. They say, I've heard people in the army say something along the lines of, I enjoy this lifestyle. I wake up, I don't have to think about what I have to do. Someone tells me to go here, I go there. Someone says go there, I go there. People provide most of my resources for me. I have jobs that I can do. They're very specific. They have detail-oriented. I know exactly when they're finished. I know exactly when they're not finished. And that's it. I can just go about things like that. I mean, people even in prison have made similar arguments that once they got back on the outside, on a much less regimented schedule where they actually had freedom to do what they want, that it was difficult to reacclimatize because they were used to that set schedule. So it's not like everybody has to, you're not obligated by any means to consider, oh, what is the purpose of my life? Why am I here? You know, why? These questions aren't essential. There's not going to be any, it doesn't seem like there's any final judge and jury who is going to be like, hey, you didn't think about your life enough, so, you know, whatever. But if you look through history, I think it was it Socrates or Plato who said, you know, if it was Socrates, it was, you know, Plato via Socrates, since Socrates is only the character in Plato's dialogue, since Socrates never wrote anything himself. And Plato then would say, the unexamined life is not worth living, right? So if the essence of this unexamined life is, what is the nature of my mind? What is the nature of my life? What is the meaning of my life? What do I want? And if there isn't a meaning that's already there, what would I like the meaning of my life to be? You know, what would you hope for that people, what would you hope that in your absence people describe of you? When you're not there, or once you're gone, what would you like people to kind of feel like, oh, these were the dominant qualities of this person. This is the major ideas that I associate with this person. And maybe you don't have, or I don't have a meaning of my life, or maybe I do, but the question is, did that come through? Did that quality, you know, come through in the way that we actually lived our life? Because here's the deal. Everything we do, every single action has a reason. We always have a reason. I'm hungry, so I eat, right? I'm uncomfortable here, so I'm going to move to another chair. I want to transform my mind, so I'm going to go through maybe an intensive meditation practice. So I'm going to start picking up a regular daily meditation practice. Or I want to be healthy, so I'm going to start exercising regularly and, you know, maybe change my diet. Whatever it is, we always have a reason. So the point is this: if we don't reflect on our reasons, if we don't even think about the why, if we don't even think about the idea that I could have a purpose, even if it's a purpose that I just give myself, it's not like some external purpose, but it's a self-defined purpose. It's a meaning that I assign myself, right? It's not necessarily a meaning that was imbued in me naturally. It was something I had to go discover. If I don't have that, then here's the deal. We are opening ourselves up to become basically the victim of influence of our own, you might call it lower nature, of our instinctual nature, of our animal nature, of the egoic mind. That is, if I don't have a reason to do stuff, I still do have reasons, I'm just not thinking about it. And those reasons are going to be naturally generated from my own biological being, my own psychological being. That psychology is conditioned by where I grew up, where I come from, my experiences in the past, and of course, that is like the top layer, but deep within that are the millions of, maybe billions of years of evolution to keep me alive. And all of those biological urges are going to have a lot of impetus in my life, and they're going to encourage me towards certain activities. And basically, if I'm not thinking about, if I'm not even aware about where my impulse to go do something is coming from, if I don't think about that, then I am basically at a type of consciousness that is totally being influenced at all times by my basic biological drives, by the ego, in so many words. So the point is that we ought to, in my opinion, it's better to think about this than not. About what do you want your purpose to be? What is important for you to have for your meaning? And it's okay that whatever your meaning is to you is conditioned by your experience. You know, for example, I have a nice family, and so at least part of the purpose of my life is going to be to contribute to the well-being of the family that surrounds me, to contribute to the well-being of the people who are closest to me as frequently as possible. You know, if I can be a good influence on them and add value to their lives, I think this is at least part of the definition of a good life for me. So I'm not sure if that's my final purpose. That's certainly not my sole purpose in life, but that is going to be, at least in there. And why do I want that? Well, because I have a nice family who kind of help me at different times, and they support me, and they're, just people that I care about. So my past, has influenced my decision about my ideas about where I would like to go and what I would like my purpose to be, or the meaning of my life to being, or at least a part of it. And so that's okay. But the point is, the unexamined life is not worth living. Is that true? I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I think that the examined life opens up doors to enrich our experience on a much more profound level. Because when we experience the pleasures that are just kind of the simple pleasures, like, oh, I feel hungry so I eat. Oh, I feel tired so I sleep. These are very pleasurable activities. Of course, these are, you have an itch, you scratch it, right? But there's something just more superficial about those sort of desires when compared to something that we feel is bigger than us. For example, if I contribute to my community, if I contribute to my state, if I could create things that would contribute to the well-being of people, both in my proximity and maybe even in the distance, and I mindfully set out to do that, and I accomplished that task throughout the way that I live my life, how can we possibly say that there's not a more profound sense of satisfaction, of meaning, of just well-being that's going to, and even happiness, contentedness, that's going to come from that achievement, not even achievement, but from that moving towards something that is more important than just, my itch is fun to scratch, but isn't it cool when we can work together to scratch society's itch? And maybe that itch isn't just an itch, but it's, something like providing health and well-being for people around us. Or, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be those specific goals. The point is that when we think about what our purpose is, and then we move towards it, we basically drop the floor out of the profundity that we can bring to our life. The depth of experience that we can experience when we kind of focus on this in a more deeper way, in a more comprehensive way, and then actually make moves to do that, we increase our ability to enjoy things. We probably increase the well-being of the other people that we work with. And in a very practical sense, if we are actually motivated by such sort of motives, it's very likely that on a very much resource-based sense, we're probably going to be better off in our resources, in our probably just the general comfort of our livelihood, because we have a drive that's pulling us into something we care about, and if we can use that motivation to enhance our skills, to really bring us to the top level that we can be at, then we are putting ourselves in the best position possible to live life even on those kind of simple and creature comfort ways. We're elevating our ability to even satisfy those comforts, and we're going to go beyond that with a more profound significance in our life. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Go ahead and click subscribe so you can get the updates of these videos. This is a topic we're going to definitely dive into more in the future. So if you're enjoying these videos, join the group. Go over to precisionprinciple.com. Check out the game. If you're not in the game yet, the question is why? It could actually transform your life. Really? Don't believe me? Test it yourself. In the meantime, thank you for joining me. Keep learning, keep growing, and have a great day.